Question 813. A joint tenant is legally able to A. Lease their interest, B. Sell their interest, C. Encumber their interest as security for a mortgage loan, D. All of the above. Correct answer is D. All of the above. A defining characteristic of joint tenancy is the 4 unities: time, title, interest, and possession, and the right of survivorship. This right means that upon the death of one joint tenant, their interest automatically passes to the surviving joint tenants, bypassing probate. However, a joint tenant can take actions during their lifetime that can sever the joint tenancy and convert it into a tenancy in common, which does not have the right of survivorship. A joint tenant can lease their interest in the property. However, a lease generally does not sever the joint tenancy in California. The leasehold interest would terminate upon the death of the lesser joint tenant, and the surviving joint tenants would take the entire property unencumbered by the lease. A joint tenant can sell their interest in the property without the consent of the other joint tenants. If a joint tenant sells their interest to a third party, it severs the joint tenancy as to that selling tenant. The new owner becomes a tenant in common with the remaining joint tenants, who continue to hold their interests as joint tenants with each other. A joint tenant can encumber their interest, e.g., place a mortgage or deed of trust on their share of the property. In California, a mortgage or deed of trust placed by one joint tenant does not sever the joint tenancy unless and until the mortgage is foreclosed upon and the property is sold during the lifetime of the debtor joint tenant. If the debtor joint tenant dies before the foreclosure sale, the lien typically extinguishes because their interest automatically passes to the surviving joint tenants, free of that lien. Since a joint tenant can sell, lease, and encumber their interest, even though the effect on the joint tenancy varies, selling severs, leasing and encumbering typically do not unless a foreclosure sale occurs. All of these actions are legally permissible for an individual joint tenant.